Okay, we're live for Ask an Expert Friday. Welcome, welcome. This is Stephanie from our Beauty Referral Network. So we're a network that helps beauty, wellness, and health businesses grow and flourish. And there's a lot of other businesses in our Beauty and Lifestyle Referral Network on Facebook as well. So if you're not in there, highly suggest you come and join us. So for our Ask an Expert series today, I have Sasha, who is a mortgage broker, and she does specialize in helping business owners in particular, which is why I wanted to have her come on and join us and share her expertise and kind of tell you a little bit about what's actually possible for us as business owners, because I know the big banks will look at us like big liabilities and risks and just say no. So Sasha, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sasha Idema. I'm a mortgage broker with Vericoziva. I've been a mortgage broker for about 15 years. So I specialize, as Stephanie was saying, with business for self. There's alternative lenders that we can use some creative ways to come up with your income. And I also do a lot of private lending, and I deal with rental properties and investments also.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I tried to post in our group if anybody had any questions.
Okay.
Do you want to share a little bit about like your process and what makes you different from every other mortgage broker out there?
Yeah, well, I think the key point is really kind of understanding what your business does and where, who your clients are, how do you get your clients, how do you invoice, how your business is set up. All accountants set up people's businesses differently, whether or not you're incorporated or you're a sole proprietor. When we're looking at income for a self-employed individual, we can look at, obviously, if you are a small business owner or a large business owner, you most likely write off a large part of your income. So if you are someone who is writing off a large part of your income to save on taxes, we have what we call B lenders or alternative lenders, and we can look at bank statements. So you can look at your corporate or your personal bank statements, depending on how your business is set up, of course, and we can annualize your deposits and then come up with a figure to use for your income to qualify you for a mortgage. So when we're going to a bank like a Scotia Bank, a TD Bank, or a credit union, when we're looking at a business for self-individual, we are looking at a 2-year average. So right now it's 2025. 2024 taxes are most likely not done yet. So we'd be looking at a 2023, 2022. I would ask for your notice of assessments and your T1 generals. Then what we, business for self, you're typically paying yourself a dividend or a T4. Now, if you are looking to qualify for a mortgage, it's very important that you're keeping that income consistent. So if you are T4ing yourself, you want to make sure that you're continually T4ing yourself and not doing 1 year's T4s and 1 year of dividends. So if we are looking at T4 income that you are paying yourself through your corporation, we are looking at that 2-year average. So like I said, if you're only paying yourself a small salary, we're only able to use that 2-year average of that salary without a gross up. Now, if you are a sole proprietor and we're looking at your business income, what we can do is use a 2-year average, and then we are allowed to use a 15% gross up. So it is a good idea if you are in the market for buying a home and you are self-employed or your income is a little bit trickier, that you talk to a mortgage broker sooner than later, because in most cases I am talking to accountants at the same time and talking to how we can set up your taxes for future planning.
Okay. Okay. Lots of good info.
Yeah.
What about for those that have short-term rental properties?
So short-term rental properties are a trickier one. I'm sure you're referring to Airbnb and VRBO sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a few ways that we can get these done. Now, if you are declaring it on your T1 generals and your rental activities and you are declaring the Airbnb income, we can't use the rental income that you're declaring on the Airbnbs because the banks haven't really recognized that as income. So in some cases, the banks will allow us to use a market rent. So say you're making $6,000 a month on Airbnb or VRBO, but your actual market rent is about $2,500 if you were going to rent it out to a long-term tenant. In some cases, we can use a market rent scenario. However, if it is an Airbnb or a VRBO, in some situations, also depending on the whole picture of your income, property type, where the property is located, there is a lot of private lending scenarios where we have to put clients into those. And that's just because the banks really hasn't recognized short-term rental income, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I feel like you've covered a lot. Just trying to think of any questions that I have about any of that. Is there anything that you want to add that you find is really important for people to know about mortgages? Like here's a good one. Why go to a mortgage broker rather than go to the brokers at the bank?
Oh, God, that's a loaded question, and happy that you asked that. Banks.
Well, there's a lot of people that I see they ask in Facebook groups, like, I talked to my bank, blah, 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 and this and this and this. And it's like, well, why didn't you talk to a broker? Like, I think some people often think that when they go to a mortgage broker, an independent one like yourself, maybe they have to pay you.
Right. Sure.
And that's the question. Go to the bank.
We get that question very often. So look, when you're going to a bank,
All right. What's happening here? Okay. I think I must have lost Sasha. I didn't know if it was my internet or hers. So hang tight while I just get her back. I love technology. Okay, she said she's coming back, so we're just waiting so she can answer that loaded question that I just asked. Where is she? Sorry, guys. If anyone is watching live that has questions, please pop that into the comments so that we can ask her right now while we're on a live call. And if you're watching a replay, then just pop it down there anyway, and we'll get back to you.
Can you hear me there? Sorry about that.
Okay.
My laptop.
Yeah, you totally froze.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think you were just asking about why use a broker over the bank, right?
Yeah. Broker versus bank.
So banks hold the license, whereas the individual that you're dealing with doesn't actually have a mortgage license. So they're only offering you their mortgage products, and that's the only thing that they're versed in. As a mortgage broker, we are dealing with multiple banks, multiple credit unions. We are not going to just offer you one product, one rate. We're going to offer you the best product and the best rate. So I think what self-employed borrowers should know, which is the most important, is that rate isn't the most important thing for you. It's going to be more about product. Because sometimes banks are offering a lower rate and you may not qualify for that rate. So you might say, the bank has 409 right now. Well, there's stipulations to that product, or it could have a higher penalty. So a mortgage broker will help guide you into not just the best rate, but also the best product. And is also for future. It's not just right now and closing the mortgage, but it's also where you're going to be in the next 3 years and the next 5 years.
Okay. Yeah, very important to know. And then I guess going to you, because you're checking the credit, right? So they're not getting a bunch of, if they go to like multiple banks and talk to multiple banks on their own, that's going to be different hits on the credit score versus just coming to you.
Yeah, exactly. So I do pull your credit, then when we submit it to a lender, the lender will do a credit pull or a soft credit pull. In some cases it's a hard credit pull, and they do it through TransUnion and Equifax. But really, the most important part is getting the best product. Like I said, because you're self-employed and you write off a lot of your income, the bank may not have a product for you.
Okay. Whoa. Sorry, I was just going to see if anybody has asked any questions. What else can I ask? Can you talk about like the current rates and what the forecasts look like? Do you have any insight onto what this year could potentially be and what people should be getting prepared for?
Yeah.
I think you talked a little bit about how a business owner can prepare. Maybe we can go into a little bit more detail.
Yeah. So keep in mind, in Canada, there's two different mortgage rates. There's fixed rates and there's the variable rate. So the Bank of Canada sets monetary policy, which then sets the overnight rate, and then the banks then set their prime rate. So that meeting happens a few times a year, like 10 times a year. The first meeting of 2025 is next Wednesday. I'm thinking there's going to be a 25 basis point cut, and that's based on our December inflation data that came in at 1.8%. Fixed rates are based off of the bond yield. So as mortgage brokers, we are looking at the bond yields daily, and then we're kind of setting expectations on where we think the banks are going to land their fixed rates on. So as of yesterday, the bond yield was at about 3%. It's been a little bit volatile. Early in the week, it was at 2.9%. What we see on the bond yield is that banks are setting their rates about 1.25 to 1.5 over the bond yield. So if I wake up one day and I see that bond yield go up to 3.3 or 3.5%, it's 100% likely that we're going to start seeing emails from banks coming in that fixed rates are going up. Now, I know that people want me to say that fixed rates are going to go down, but I actually sort of think that we're at our bottom for fixed rates. Right now, on someone who's putting down less than 20%, we're seeing rates at about 4.19%, 409, 419. When people are putting down 20%, and we call these uninsurable mortgages, that rate is about 4.39 on a 3-year term. Variable discounts haven't been as deep as of recently. So the Bank of Canada prime rate is at 5.45%. We're seeing discounts anywhere between 0.7 to 1% on that. Now, the forecast is interesting for what we think the Bank of Canada is going to do, because we don't know what's going to happen in the US with tariffs. So a lot of economists were thinking that the Bank of Canada were going to lower rates at least 1% to 1.25% this year. If Trump comes out with tariffs at 25%, we could hit them back with tariffs, and then we could see further increases into those forecasts, because obviously there could be like a trade war going on, and we're already in a shrinking economy right now, and that would just further, do bad things to our economy. If we absorb this 25% tariff, that's going to make our cost of goods go up. That's going to make inflation go up. And then we're back up to where we were before. Tariffs are inflationary, right? So they're going to make the cost of everything go up. So it's kind of hard to say where we're at right now. Obviously, it's a bit of a wild card down in the states. We don't really know what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis, on a minute-to-minute basis, and what's really happening. So, as of right now, I would like to say that I think rates are still going to go down about 1% on variable. I think that variable is a good option to look forward to finally again. I think people who had variables in the last couple of years are a little bit gun shy to take a variable again. But I do think that we're kind of nearing the end of where we are on fixed rates. I can't see them going down much further.
Okay. Okay, cool. How do you see the industry changing in the next 5 to 10 years with regards to mortgages and your job?
Oof, great question. That's a great question. Who knows? I guess with all of this like AI stuff coming out too, like we just don't know. I, you know, we're starting to hear rumors that there's going to be more banks in the broker channel. So right now, the big banks that we deal with are TD and Scotia. We're supposed to have Bank of Montreal by the end of this year. So I think that more banks are seeing an opportunity to work with mortgage brokers. So I think that that's a good thing. Um, Real estate is interesting because obviously in British Columbia we've done quite well with real estate. So, and there's been a lot of rules that have been imposed. There's a new anti-flipping tax in the neck that's going to happen. So you can't sell your home within the first 2 years without being taxed 20%, and then it goes down after year one. So it's so hard to say because the government does interfere a lot with real estate. So it kind of really depends on who's in power and what's going to happen.
Okay. Okay. What's a question you wish people would ask more often?
Oh, good question. I guess I'll say what question I don't like, and that is what is the best rate?
Okay.
Um,
Don't ask what is the best rate. Got it.
yeah, and I understand why people ask that because it is sort of something that the media puts out there a lot and like, on interest rates, but we're talking about people that are self-employed and people go online and they Google best interest rates, and a lot of these people online, they advertise a lower rate than what's available, so they kind of do a bait and switch.
Mhm.
So people think that this low rate's available, and then when you actually start talking to someone, you realize, okay, that product isn't even available, or you wouldn't even qualify for that product. So it's more, I like to really have a good intro call with my clients and say, where are you going to be in 3 years? Where are you going to be in 5 years? Are you going to be in this home for 3 to 5 years? Is this going to be, if you're going to sell your home in 2 to 3 years, should we be putting you in a 5 year product where you're going to have a big penalty? Maybe we should be looking at a variable product. If you are looking at, selling in a year's time, maybe you should be in an open product. So I think, people are pretty good at asking the right questions. I think the worst question you can ask though is like, what is the best rate? Because the best rate isn't always available for everyone.
Okay. That's good. That's a really good one.
I know
Love this information.
people probably don't love that question, that answer, but
But it makes sense why that is not the best question to ask. When you start to educate people a little bit more on the all the other parts of a mortgage and that there's
Mhm.
different products, then it makes sense that you're not always looking for the best rate. You're looking for the best product for you.
Well, there's also products out there that have really low rates, but they have humongous penalties to get out of them. So yeah, you can tell me that you're going to be staying in your house for 5 years, but statistically, people actually break their mortgage within 3.5 to 4 years of a 5 year
Mm,
term. So
mm,
like, if you're going to be paying a $25,000 penalty just because you wanted to pay 10 basis points lower on your interest rate, does that really make a lot of sense? It probably doesn't.
mm. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so it's really, you really have to look at the bigger picture for your clients to make sure that they're fully understanding things too.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes people want to climb up the property ladder. They want to maybe buy a rental property. So like, how are we going to get them in a product, or where they're going to be building equity, or maybe they want a secured line of credit attached to their mortgage, and that's going to help them, get their next property. There's just a lot of different moving parts when it comes to mortgages. It's not just black and white.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also like going back to why we should be using mortgage brokers, and that's just because we have access to so many different products. It's
Yeah,
not always about rate. It's more so about your mortgage product.
yeah, and the bank is not always going to give you the best rate or the best product.
No, you're just someone walking, like the person at the branch. In some cases, I'm not going to put my foot in my mouth here, because in some cases you are dealing with a financial planner who maybe knows a little bit about mortgages, but we eat, breathe, and sleep mortgages. We're
Mm,
licensed. We have to do regulatory updates on a yearly basis. So like, we are conditioned to know a lot about mortgages, where the banks don't have, the education that we do.
What got you into mortgages? I don't know if we answered that in the beginning, but
You know what? That's
I know
funny.
you said how long you've been doing mortgages for, but what actually got you into mortgages? Like what keeps you going in this world?
Yeah, it's funny. I really like problem solving. I got into mortgages about 15 years ago, so I was in my like early 20s, and my stepmom's a property manager, and I knew a lot of realtors, and I kind of wanted to be a realtor at first, and my stepmom was like, I don't want you out at night showing houses. Like do something different. And I was like, okay. So then I spoke to my realtors that I knew, and they were like, why don't you go into to mortgages? So in my first couple of years, I did really well, and then I got a really good opportunity to work as a business development manager for a bank, where I learned like really the back end of mortgages and all of the insurance products. My clients were strictly mortgage brokers, so I built a lot of really great relationships that way, and I built a lot of really great relationships with lenders. So I did that for 6 years, and then I went back into mortgages. And mortgages for me there's just always I'm providing a solution for clients. Like I have the ability to look at a scenario and say, oh no, you have an option. Like there is a solution for you, because sometimes people feel like they're totally screwed, and that's
Mhm,
not the case. There's a ton of short-term solutions that I can provide for my clients, and then we have an exit plan to get them out of that.
mhm.
So for me, it's more about like seeing a puzzle and putting things in place.
Okay, I love it. If you weren't a mortgage broker, what would you be doing?
Oh God. Okay, that's a good one. That's a really good one. So I love animals. I'm obsessed with animals, like to the point where like I rescue dogs. I promote rescue as much as possible. I would be doing something in terms of, I could never be a vet though because I'm too weak, but something to do with animals. Like I would probably be like in Africa, you know, following elephants somewhere, like something along the lines of that. I
Okay,
would
cool.
like the analytical side of me would like to say lawyer, but like I feel like I'd get tired of that.
Okay, awesome. So do you want to share a little bit more about this dog rescue thing? Because I think that's something that's kind of cool for people to know a little bit about you because, people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Mhm.
So I feel like sharing something about the dog rescues would be really nice for people to hear.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for asking, because I'd love to talk about it. So I rescued my first dog in 2014 in Mexico when I just came across a stray dog in the Baja, and I had her for a few months, and she ended up going, funny enough, to a lawyer, and she just lived the life of luxury, and she passed away just 2 years ago now. But from there, I kind of just started realizing the need for adoption, fostering, and rescuing. So I then got a black lab from Korea in 2018. I have a corgi from China. They were saved from the meat trade. So I really just kind of jumped into volunteering with as many rescues as possible. So I work with Korean rescues. I work with Turkish rescues. Last year I started rescuing dogs out of California that are in high kill shelters. It's really just a awful situation down there, where dogs and strays come in and they're killed within, sometimes as early as 7 days, and people just abandon their dogs, and it's really just broken my heart. So I really, almost probably to a point that is annoying to some people, I just talk about rescuing, fostering, and advocating for animals as much as possible, because it's something that I really, really am like, it's my passion. And I'm so happy that I have this passion, even though sometimes it breaks my heart in a lot of ways. But it's something that I just feel really strongly about. So I yeah, I have a group of friends that we foster, volunteer, do whatever we can. Right now we're planning and organizing a fundraiser for 3 dog rescues that have been affected directly by the California wildfires. That's happening on February 6th. So it's something that I'm just so passionate about.
Awesome. I think that's something really good that you're doing. So if anybody is looking to adopt a dog, I suppose they can contact you as well.
Absolutely. I would connect them with the best rescue or whatever they need. Absolutely.
Perfect. Awesome. I'll make sure I have all of your contact info in the description of the video for everybody to reach out, whether they have mortgage questions or dog rescue questions.
Thank you.
Before we end, what would be like one piece of advice you want to leave with everybody?
Don't leave anything to the last minute. If you want to if you're a first time home buyer or you own a home and you're newly self-employed, whatever it is, do your work first. Cause I've had a lot of people who have come to me and they've made an offer and they have no idea about their income. On their intro call, they go, "Oh yeah, I think I make like $200,000 a year." And then you look at their taxes and they're like, "Oh no, like I T4 myself $35,000 a year." So like it's hard for me to quote products and rates when I can't see the full picture. So if you have most of the time, when you're self-employed, you have a direct line to your accountant. I am talking to accountants quite often. They're sending me documents quite often. We look at the T1 generals and your notice of assessment. So just be prepared and do it as early as possible.
Okay, fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to come and share all of your knowledge with our community.
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate it. And we hope that we can get some referrals sent over to you as well and help a lot of the people in our community that might be looking to purchase or maybe refinance or purchase a secondary property or whatever it is that they're doing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'll see everybody next Friday for another Ask an Expert Friday series.
Okay. Bye.